Okay, so let's dive right in. Things in the Middle East have been pushed to a critical tipping point thanks to a series of direct confrontations and major military deployments. Today, we're going to break down those fault lines, the ones between the US, Israel, and Iran, and take a look at what can happen next.
And right now, it feels like the whole world is holding its breath, with all eyes fixed on the Middle East. You can just feel that sense of a world on edge. So let's really unpack why this has become such a massive focal point.
We'll start by looking at the specific tensions that have pretty much everyone watching so closely.
To really get a handle on that, we first have to ask, who are the main players here? Who is at the very heart of all this friction?
Well, when you look at it, it really boils down to two key matchups. First up, you've got the United States versus Iran. Tensions there have just skyrocketed lately, with everything from naval standoffs to disputes over nuclear programs. Then, you have the long-simmering conflict between Israel and Iran, this kind of shadow war that just keeps heating up. These are the two big flashpoints we really need to watch.
And look, this isn't just about harsh words. We're talking about serious military moves. A US carrier strike group has been deployed to the Persian Gulf. Now, the Pentagon calls it a deterrent, right? But Iran, they're calling it a provocation. Either way you slice it, an action like this absolutely raises the stakes on the ground. What happens in one part of the world doesn't just stay there. It creates these ripple effects that can touch everyone. So that brings us to the big question. Why should you care about this, even if you live thousands of miles away?
Well, the answer really comes down to one thing: the global economy. The economic connections here are huge, and yeah, they can affect all of us, no matter where we call home.
A conflict here could have immediate, and I mean immediate, global consequences. Think about this. Nearly a third of all the world's oil that travels by sea passes right through the Strait of Hormuz. A third! So you can imagine if anything disrupts that flow, it's going to send a massive shockwave through the entire economy. We're talking about oil prices potentially spiking, which could trigger inflation and mess up supply chains for, well, pretty much everything.
So when you take all these different pieces, the key players, the military chess moves, the huge economic stakes, it all leads to one massive, unavoidable question.
And this is really the heart of it all. Could this tension just boil over into something much, much bigger? The analysis seems to show that nobody wants an all-out war. But the real danger? It's a mistake. One miscalculation, one single incident in the Persian Gulf, and this whole thing could spin out of control so fast.
So what do you think is going to happen? The future isn't set in stone, obviously, but what we have is this incredibly volatile mix of direct military posturing, economic dependency, and these really deep, long-standing rivalries. Maybe the real question isn't just if a larger war could happen, but what tiny little spark could be the one to light the whole fuse. It's definitely something to think about. Thanks for joining me for this explainer.